Next up, we're going to change gears a little bit, talking about a digital side of making with Chad. Big round of applause for Chad.
Hi everybody, my name's Chad and I'm also from Canada, and I wanted to talk for a couple minutes about the world's largest minority group, people with disabilities. Stats show that about 1 in 7 people have some sort of permanent disability that impacts their quality of life. That's 1 billion people around the world, and it's the most inclusive minority group. Anyone can join it at any time. Doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity, your gender, your sexual orientation. Disability can impact and reach anybody. Now, in the early 80s, some movement began in Canada that started to change the perception of people with disabilities. Terry Fox was a young man that lost his leg to cancer, but 3 years later he began his Marathon of Hope, where every day on his one leg he ran a full marathon. And he did that for 150 days until he died of cancer, which inspired Rick Hansen to kind of continue that mission. And over the course of 2 years, he rolled around the world in his wheelchair. So this started to change the conversation from people with disabilities and more to focus on their abilities. But as I'm at the Nonprofit Technology Conference, I'd like to tell a couple of stories about the intersection of disability and technology. When Neil broke his neck in a car accident, he couldn't move his arms, he couldn't move his legs, and had a very difficult time speaking, and eventually lost his ability to speak. So his cousin, Bill Cameron, said, "There's something we got to do for Neil. It's unacceptable that this bright young man that's literally trapped in his body and unable to speak." So he hired a couple of co-op students, and they developed a system called Sip and Puff. And by sipping and puffing on a tube, it worked like a switch, on-off, or for you technical people, a 0 and a 1. And they then connected that to a Morse code machine, so the sips and puffs became dots and dashes, and then they connected that to a state-of-the-art Apple IIe computer. So by Neil sipping and puffing on a tube, he was able to type on his screen, and it literally gave him his voice back. He could say things like, 15 seconds a slide is way too quick. So other people that were in the rehab facility saw what was going on with Neil and said, you know, I would like to learn to use technology. I think it could improve my quality of life. So he was able to secure some government funding to hire more youth interns to create more access methods. Some of these disability technology access methods are things that you use every day and don't realize it. Have any of you ever sent a text message before? That's been around since 1964 and began as an accommodation for the deaf and hard of hearing. So many of these things actually come and impact all of our lives. So it was clear that technology and its evolution could really change the life for people with disabilities. So when Neil passed, they started a nonprofit in his memory a little over 30 years ago that focused on how technology can empower people with disabilities. And that initial prototype that they built for Neil is now a commercial product. It's called the Joust. It's a joystick you can mount to your desk that plugs in your computer, and by moving that joystick up, down, left, right in your mouth, it moves the mouse on your screen. So this is Don Danbrook. He's on our board of directors. He's a tetraplegic, but he works full-time as a chartered accountant. He's going back to school to be an architect. He's a brilliant man that is able to kind of contribute due to the use of technology. Now, about 10 years ago, the rise of mobile phones began, and for many of us, this has changed the way that we access, communicate, and work with each other, and has opened many doors for people with disabilities, but also has created a new digital divide. While this phone that I have in my pocket is 100,000 times more powerful than the computer that Neil used, there is no mouth control sort of option that would allow someone that can't use their hands to use a touchscreen device. So we recently received a Google Impact Grant, and we're developing a new prototype that we're calling the Lip Sync. And it's like the Joust, but the tower controls is about the size of my hand, and it can be powered by the phone to give someone complete control of their phone from their mouth device. And I have a couple of young co-op students, very similar to our founding story, working with me. This is Malad, who has very limited use of his hands and is an engineer. So not only is this a device that's going to help people with disabilities, but it's also being designed by people with disabilities. What we're doing different this time compared to the Joust is it's not a product we want to manufacture and have sold for thousands of dollars. Instead, we're going to open source the whole thing. We're going to release the schematics, the diagrams, and we're starting to work with universities in our community to print these devices to make them super affordable for people with disabilities. And the rise of 3D printers and makers in communities is changing a lot of things. There's a lot of prosthetic that are now being done. So people are able to print prosthetics for a couple $100s instead of being made for tens of thousands of dollars. So I wanted to end with a quick poll. Who here has used their mobile device today? Can I see a show of hands? Let's make it so that people that can't lift their hands can use mobile devices too. Thank you very much.